they've started to sink their hands in my life here. Range of things hot, turns to my dead sea. There's just a things my creed. Cause it's quicker shine on and let it right to me. It's our solemn mission. Taxation, a cruel invasion. Liberty, suffocation, a quiet abrasion. With our voices in unison, against the imposition, we stand, we demand. It's our solemn mission. Will you hear my plea? If I express my Lord in funds here in the state's grip, I know they started to sink their hands in my life here. Range of things hot, turns to my dead sea. Is there's just a things my creed. Cause it's quicker shine on and let it right to me. It's our solemn mission. Taxation, a cruel invasion. Liberty, suffocation, a quiet abrasion. With our voices in unison, against the imposition, we stand, we demand. It's our solemn mission. Will you hear my plea? If I express my Lord in funds here in the state's grip, I know they started to sink their hands in my life.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. How's everybody doing today? Feeling good? Did you have a good weekend? Great success. I visited the Missouri Republican Convention as an honored delegate. Got to have my voice heard on many issues. The fight for liberty is more than just a Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time Wake Up America podcast. Oh no. Austin Peterson volunteers his weekends to fight for freedom as well. Oh, thank you. Thank you. We're definitely going to have a great conversation about that. We'll talk about how the sausage is made. This is what democracy looks like. Ben Baker of Southwest Missouri, a regular guest on the show. He comes on every once in a while. Is going to be joining us. He was in big trouble with the grassroots over the weekend. They were mad at him because of how he conducted a quorum call at the end of the convention. What is a quorum? What is a quorum call? Why are the grassroots mad at him? Don't worry. All of your questions will be answered. We'll be talking about all the drama, the screaming, the running around with the heads cut off. And I'll give you my take on why I think that it was actually a big victory for the grassroots here in Missouri, for conservatives, libertarians, People who believe in limited government. We fought the establishment this weekend, and gosh darn it, we won. Thank you to Levin214 for those very nice donations. You're very sweet. Thank you to Mommy as well. We've raised $15 towards our goal. Real quick about that, the bonus content today. Now, you don't know the theme for the week until we actually unlock the bonus content, but I know many of you have been asking for, how can we do a running total? How can we do a running total? Well, here's the thing. So Rumble actually updated their app so I can see, without having to keep track right there during the show, I can actually start to see now what we've been able to do during the show, what we've raised. So in the future, I'm going to try and add a functionality where there will be a little button or a little area on the screen somewhere where you'll be able to actually track it in real time. Now, I'll still have to like manually change that number, right? I don't have a producer. It's just me just yet. But soon you will be able to see it on the screen, how far we've gotten along with our Wake Up America show donations during the show. And you'll see how close we are to unlocking bonus content. And of course, if you make a purchase at apforlibertyshop.com, that totally counts. We were selling a bunch of merchandise over the weekend, so good stuff. Okay, do we really only have one person watching us live over on Rumble? Oh, 142. Good morning, everyone. Don't forget to click the like button. And if it's your first time here, make sure that you click follow. We've got some incredible guests. Ben Baker again joins us at 8:30 to talk about the Missouri Republican Convention, what freedom fighting looks like up close and in person. Real, well, I'm going to use a bad word amongst our subset, but real democracy. Don't give me that. Hey, democracy did not win this weekend. We'll talk about that as well at 8:30. It's going to be a great conversation, so you definitely want to make sure that you hear Ben Baker at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. The head of content creation for the Foundation for Economic Education, John Miltimore, joins us live this morning at 7:30 a.m. Central Time. Everybody loves Mondays with Miltimore. Shadow Collector, you thought you were a very special one. Where you are, sir. We love you. You're very attractive. Make us feel good today. Appreciate you. The topic for John Miltimore, driving your car until the wheels fall off. Now, I made a poor financial decision when I was a young lad. And in 2012, I bought a brand new, right off the lot, Ford F-150.
How dare you?
I know, I was stupid. I should have bought a used one. It was dumb. I paid for it. It's completely paid off now. And it looks like I'm going to drive it until the wheels fall off, because who could afford a new vehicle? Have you seen how much some of these vehicles cost? If you want to go and get like a basic pickup truck these days, you're paying $75,000 to $100,000 if you do want a new car, which I don't recommend. But even if you're buying a car that's like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years old, you're still paying. I've seen people with monthly payments that are like $750. I thought I had it bad back in the day when I was paying $550 a month. That was a big down payment. Now, with as much as we're paying in this economy to keep a car, I've seen people there, they have vehicle bills, monthly payments for their vehicles that are more than the mortgage on their house, more than the rent on their house. Now, I knew Erd's mommy was going to slap me down.
How
And
dare you?
she said, we aren't a democracy, AP. I know. I didn't say we were a democracy. But when a bunch of people get together in a convention and they're voting on things, that is democratic. It doesn't mean we're a democracy. But just remember that there are democratic aspects. We do vote in this society. Ike Giving a Shits over in the Rumble chat says, please, God, limit government. I would love to, except we've got a problem here where in 2024, it's no longer Baptists and bootleggers trying to ban alcohol. We've got cronies and conspiratards trying to ban the lab-grown meat. Ike Giving a Shit says, the more you know our representatives, the more you realize they are not our best and brightest. Keep fighting the good fight. Well, thank you, Ike Giving a Shits. Yeah, we're going to talk about all this good stuff here. I see you guys are really fired up on the truck topic, the new vehicle topic. Yes, they bought, Erd's mommy bought 3 new trucks. It was $210,000. Got 2 trailers too. Dear Lord, that is a lot. All right, so I'm tracking your Rumble rants in the back of the show. 10, 10, 5, so 25 so far towards our $60 goal. We are rocking and rolling. Now, listen, lab grown meat doesn't sound delicious to me, doesn't sound appetizing, but we're probably going to need it. And we don't need to be banning new methods of food creation because there were probably people back in ancient times who saw a guy that took an ox and put a steel plow behind it and started plowing up the ground with it instead of like digging it out with his hands and was like, this is voodoo. This is voodoo. He is practicing witchcraft. We must kill him. He has voodoo. Anyways, we're going to talk about the lab grown meat here in this morning. Just a minute. I do have to get to the Kristi Noem topic, which I titled, I have a video that's going to make you laugh. It's going to make you cry. It's going to make you pee your pants. I'll play it in just a moment. We'll talk about what's happening with Kristi Noem and the weird, the shooting of the foot continues. She shoots her dog. She shoots her foot. She is kaputt. We'll talk about the Kristi Noem thing here in just a moment. I do have to let you know, though, we will have our new sponsor on the show today. Our friends over at Preserve Gold will be joining us. Michael Christian, he's the Director of Client Relations for Preserve Gold, will be joining us at 8 a.m. Central Time. Yeah. Sister Christian, know your time is done. No, Michael Christian, get your golden guns, 'cause you know that you're the only one for me. You'll see. Preserve Gold. What's your price for bullion? And finding silver too. And keep your finances tonight. Okay, stop being a weirdo, Austin. I know. Shut up. Stop singing. We will be talking to Michael Christian this morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. The new sponsor, Preserve Gold. Give it up for them. Thank you. With Preserve Gold, we are going to grow this show. It's like we threw some seeds out there. We're building all this content. We're making this little network. Stephanie's new hustling and homemaking video comes out today, by the way. If you're a member of our locals community, then you already saw it because we uploaded it yesterday exclusively to people who are followers over there. But with Preserve Gold, we're going to start growing like crazy. We're going to start building out new content. We're going to build a network, and that a lot of that really does depend on if we can sell gold. So highly recommend that you visit our sponsor, Preserve Gold. You can see the link to them in the Rumble chat, or you can just text Liberty to 50505. Text the word Liberty to 50505, and they will send you a free gold packet. Thank you, Cecilia. Boy, you guys are making it rain. Speaking of gold. She says, I'm keeping my Jeep alive because the prices for even used cars right now. Yep. Another thing to blame on the scamdemic for sure. But also, I think that the auto industry is partially to blame as well because of the way that they don't create. Well, the government's also to blame because of the way that they force standardization for certain things. It's like whenever there's a new technology that's invented for cars, it's voodoo. And they have to make it automatically. The government will mandate it. So they create like rear facing video cameras for people to be able to park. And the government's like, oh, that's good. Mandate it. Right. And now like conservatives are trying to mandate AM radios in vehicles. Right. So it's kind of like that's another reason why vehicles have gotten so expensive. And I'm sure John Miltimore will go into this, so I don't need to go into it for long. So why don't we just head on over to the Kristi Noem video, Coffee Fueled Rage, first time joining us here. I'll love to see all the new names and faces. What's up, Coffee Fueled Rage? Said maybe that Kristi Noem's dog was evil. That's true. We didn't consider that. But did you know that Kristi Noem got to meet with North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un? Take a listen.
Talk about meeting some world leaders, and one specific one. Quote, I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un, I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. I've been a children's pastor after all. Did you meet Kim Jong Un?
Well, as soon as this was brought to my attention, I certainly made some changes and looked at this passage. And I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. As soon as it was brought to my attention, we went.
What's up with the kind of Botoxy things to look like a marionette doll?
forward and have made some edits.
I like Kristi Noem, by the way. I mean, she's in trouble here, obviously. This is news. I have to talk about it. But, no politician is immune from criticism.
So I'm glad that this book is being released in a couple of days and that those edits will be in place and that people will have the updated version.
So you did not meet with Kim Jong Un. That's what you're saying.
I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. I think I've talked extensively in this book about my time serving in Congress, my time as governor, before governor, some of the travels that I've had. I'm not going to talk about my specific meetings with world leaders. I'm just not going to do that. This
Why not?
anecdote shouldn't have been in the book.
You were talking about it in your book.
And as soon as it was brought to my attention, I made sure that that was adjusted. So.
What is going on with Kristi Noem's book? Motoring, what's your price for? I don't get it. So the book had a passage that said, I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un. I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. I'd been a children's pastor after all. I used to teach vacation Bible school myself, actually. True story. And North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un, I'm sure he underestimated. At least she didn't say misunderestimated. That would have been funny. Still right and being alive tonight. No. Sister Christian. I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un. What? This doesn't make any sense. How does something like this end up in a book if you didn't tell him to write that? I mean, obviously she's got a ghostwriter that's doing this, but I mean, a ghostwriter only writes what you tell them to write. And now she's trying to pull this out of the book. How did you think that you were going to make a claim like that and that it wasn't going to get fact checked? What's funny is that the CBS Nation lady, she asked the question. I mean, just a basic, straightforward question. Did you meet with North Korean dictator Kim Jong Un?
Well, as soon as this was brought to my attention, I certainly made some changes and looked at this passage. And I've met with many, many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. As soon as it was brought to my attention, we went forward and have made some edits. So I'm glad that this book is being released in a couple of days.
Dad Bod Baboon asked the real questions. He says, does this host grill Democrats the same way? The CBS host? Probably not. But the thing is that you're in trouble when the host doesn't even have to lie or like make things up or say something like, so what you're saying is blah, blah, blah. Like literally the host is just saying, so did you meet with Kim Jong Un? Like that's how you messed up. But yeah, Dad Bod Baboon, they don't, of course not. Adam Schiff is going to go on this CBS show. And they're going to just uncritically, unquestioned, just like NPR treated him with the Russia collusion hoax stuff. They're going to throw up chaff for the left. But you're in trouble when all they have to do is ask you a straightforward question like this, and you're in trouble.
Those edits will be in place and that people will have the updated version.
So you did not meet with Kim Jong Un. That's what you're saying.
Okay, so she did do that. So you did not meet with Kim Jong Un. So she did the... So what you're saying is, so she did do that, okay, but it's still pretty straightforward. Did you meet with Kim Jong Un or did you not? Why would you lie about something like that? Just to see, that's why I actually think this is my conspiracy theory on the dog cricket. I think that my conspiracy theory is that the whole story about her shooting the dog is also a lie. And this is more evidence for my conspiracy theory. That she wants to sound cooler, tougher than she actually is because she's in politics and she knows that she's in the contention to be vice president, which means she could be a heartbeat away from the presidency at some point. And she wants to impress men. Guys, not ladies, I'm just speaking to the guys out there who are listening this morning. Perk up, boys. Haven't you ever had this situation in your life where you've had a girl who like, maybe she was a tomboy, when you were growing up, and she really wanted to fit in with you guys. And so she would do stuff where she would kind of act really tough, or she would say that she had done all this kind of stuff. And you kind of knew that it was cap because she just wanted to kind of fit in with the boys. And so there's, she would do all this, like, I'm a tough gal. I can do all these things. I'll drive a big truck and things like that. I get the impression that that's kind of what Kristi Noem is done, which I don't think is necessary, right? I mean, of all of the women in politics that I have admired, I will say, Margaret Thatcher, she was a tough lady. They called her the Iron Lady, but she would go home and cook dinner for her family and her husband at night. There was a soft side to Margaret Thatcher. I mean, one of her famous quotes, Margaret Thatcher's quotes is, having power is like being a lady. If you have to tell people you are, you aren't. And so my impression is that Noam wants to appear tougher than portray herself as tougher. And, not to say she's not a tough gal. She's definitely, she's managed in the rough and tumble world of politics to get to where she's at. So I don't think there's any need to sort of fluff up the resume or listen, I hope that in a way, I kind of hope that she lied about killing the dog, because I think then in that sense, it makes more sense. It doesn't make sense. The story that she told about shooting her dog and then shooting the goat, like either she's got a ghostwriter that's gone rogue or she's making this stuff up. That's my opinion. What do you think about it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Send me a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Ike, giving a shit, says, glad she outed herself as a BSer. Usually this comes out after they announce her position. My buddy liked her for VP. Durr. Zed the Head says, red pillars call that a pick me. Yes. Bruce Burtwhistle says, AP, can you explain why the time tunnel keeps showing up? That's called a transition, or we call that a stinger in the industry, Bruce. So whenever I'm transitioning between one scene or another, watch this. Yep. That's my way of making it just a little bit more visually appealing. So it's not just some, straight up cut between two scenes. It just kind of helps it so that people are, just a little more visually beautiful. I think it's those little details that really make the Wake Up America show, unique and different and fun and beautiful, Our lovely friend Quantum Kitty joining us live this morning. Hello, Kill. Nice to see you. She says, I totally did shit and talked shit to fit in with the guys until I learned just being me was more than enough. Still a tomboy. See? Thank you, Kill. Nice to see you this morning. Shadow Collector says Austin is in the future, streaming to the past. It's why his reporting is always a week ahead. Thank you. Yes. Dad Bob Baboon says, you guys have got the funniest names. Says, we had Big Mac stacked a mile high. With some say it was almost a mile. I say it was a mile, and it was a beautiful mile of meat and cheese. Very funny. Thank you. Cecilia says that Margaret Thatcher quote really works today. LOL. If you have to tell people you are a lady, you aren't. Oh, man, we've got such a great show for you today. 3 incredible guests. John Miltimore coming up in a little bit less than 10 minutes. Then we're going to have Sister Christian, oh, your time is done. No, Michael Christian is going to join us at 8 a.m. Central Time to talk about our sponsor, Preserve Gold, and what they can do to help you secure your financial future. And at 8:30 a.m. Central Time, we will have Ben Baker to talk about the Republican Missouri Convention that I was at this weekend. You will learn about this is what democracy looks like. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what happened. We're going to talk about how the grassroots really won a huge battle without it going over the mark because, as you know, the Founding Fathers did not make the United States a pure democracy because they wanted to guard against the excesses of the mob. And while the grassroots were there, and they did win big victories against the establishment of the Republican Party, which I voted for and was on board with 100%, they immediately, when we got to the platform part of the debate, that is when the excesses of the crowd started going wild. Every harebrained conspiracy theory was going to be inserted into the platform. They were going to vote against school choice. And you know what? A very savvy legislator by the name of Ben Baker stood up and said, we don't need to be ramming these things through without debate. This is not the Nancy Pelosi school of lawmaking. We need to have time for debate. But there wasn't time for the debate. And so the meeting ended before the crowds could sort of have their way with the platform. And crowds of people typically, they're very authoritarian. Like, it's very rare that you will get the larger the crowd gets, the less libertarian it gets. The smaller a crowd is, the more likely you are to have a few people in there like myself who are like, well, I'll tell you a funny story real quick before I get John Miltimore. But there was this debate between who was going to be the chair of the convention. And it was between this Sophia Shore lady and Eddie Justice gentleman. And Sophia Shore ended up winning, and she did a good job. And I thought that she was very fair and even-handed. But I voted for Eddie Justice because I've heard of him, and I've heard he's done a good job. Sophia was campaign manager, or she's a communications director for one of the people who were running for office that time. So I was concerned that she might not be able to be fair. But she ended up doing a good job and proved me wrong on that one. So good job on that, Sophia. But I voted for Eddie Justice, and it was a lot of fun because when there was the whole debate about who, everybody's kind of like debating amongst themselves before the vote. I got up and I yelled, "We demand justice!" And everybody started laughing and applauding. It was just like, yeah. I had my moment. Anyways, it was lots of fun. We're going to talk about that whole process and the legislator who kind of irked some in the grassroots because he actually knew the rules and played the game properly, and I think he actually did a darn good job. I like to call him Missouri's Ted Cruz. Ben Baker will be joining us live at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. We've got Michael Christian from Preserve Gold at 8 a.m. We've got John Miltimore joining us live in 5. I want to ask him about the lab-grown meat, and I also want to ask him about buying a new vehicle in this economy. John Miltimore, when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Don't go away.
Expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor of your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's revolutionary roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's patriotic perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your Founding Flavors at apforlibertyshop.com. Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Do me a favor, hit that like button up there on the stream if you haven't already. And if it's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, we'd love to have you be a regular guest. If you click that follow button as well, you'll be able to find us for the regular schedule, which is Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9. Click the follow button at least before you leave today so you won't have a problem finding AP for Liberty. Freedom fighting is a full-time job for some people like myself, and I even volunteer my weekends. We'll talk a little bit about my exciting weekend fighting for freedom with Ben Baker at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. But another gentleman, he's a freedom fighter himself full-time, joins us live, the Senior Content Manager for the Foundation for Economic Education. You all know him as John Miltimore. It's Mondays with Miltimore. How you doing, Johnny boy?
Hey, doing great, AP. Good to be with you.
Nice to see you, brother. Thanks so much for joining us on the show. We've got a couple of great topics to talk about this morning, John. People are fired up over this question of lab-grown meat, and I'm going to pull up a picture on the screen. This is Senator John Fetterman, who says he can't believe that he agrees with Ron DeSantis of Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, who banned the creation and distribution of lab-grown meat. John Fetterman posts this picture, shows all this scary-looking science-y equipment where they might be doing science-y stuff, and says this is the thing that makes lab-grown meat. Frankly, it's terrifying, John. A big, shiny machine, and meat comes out of it. Your thoughts?
You know, I'd like to send to DeSantis and Fetterman, a book by Lysander Spooner, on vices and crimes. People don't know the difference today between vices and crimes. Lab-grown meat might be a vice. It might be a sin, okay? It's not a crime. Just stop already. Like, I'm not saying I want to eat the stuff. Like, I think it's, some of what I've looked at doesn't look good. I don't imagine it tastes good. I like my beef, from cows. But this idea that we're going to ban lab-grown meat, I think, is absurd. I think it just shows kind of the direction our whole country is going in. If we don't like that thing, it's not enough to say, like, okay, I'm not going to have that thing. It means we got to ban that thing. And, disappointed to see DeSantis go down this road. I think there's some things about public choice theory we can learn from this. In economics, public choice theory is one of those things that shows politicians are acting with their own, self-interest, just like everyone else. And I'm sure the numbers, look good for DeSantis on this. Like his base probably likes it. He's probably scoring some points, with industry friends down there who are, actually, people in the business, cattle business. But this is, it's just a really silly law. It's disappointing to see something like this supported.
Yeah, the motivation for him to do it, right? Self-interest, because the poll numbers probably looked good on it. I actually saw a poll that was conducted by an X account called Being Libertarian, right? So a libertarian audience, and the majority of libertarians said ban the lab-grown meat, which I thought was fascinating. You would think that a majority libertarian audience would think, oh, well, I won't eat it, but it should be legal because it's not harmful to anyone. And it kind of it reminds me of that centuries old fight between the Baptists and the bootleggers. They were in favor of prohibiting alcohol. They were for prohibition. You had these two disparate groups of people, right? And then now in 2024, I like to call it cronies and conspiratards, because big agriculture are the cronies. They don't want competition to their meat processing facilities. And the conspiratards, who are terrified of science, they're Luddites, and some, I assume, are good people, are terrified of anything new. Ooh, it comes out of a lab. That's scary. I don't understand it. It's new. Ban things that I don't understand and that are new, because the New World Order and Bill Gates are going to force us to live in the pod and eat the bugs. Bill Gates and the New World Order might want to force us to live in the pod and eat the bugs, but conspirators seem to want to force us to live in the field and eat the cows if we don't want to. They don't believe in freedom either. What is this weird constabulary that we see?
I'm gonna bring up one word you didn't use, and that word is spite. Like, I think some of this is out of spite. I think there are conservatives that might not necessarily be afraid of lab-grown meat, but they know who eat lab-grown meat and they want to stick it to them. Like, I think we underestimate how much of this is just pure vindictiveness. And I'm not saying just this particular issue. Look at ones that you can pick other issues. And they want to stick it to the other side, because that's kind of this age we're in of tribal politics. If it makes my political enemy feel uncomfortable or makes them feel pain, like, good, stick it to them. And I imagine there's plenty of that as well. And then, as you say, some genuine fears about lab-grown meat, and then the cronyism aspect, which is probably the primary motivation here. But yeah, it's silly. And Fetterman's interesting because he's one of these guys you look at, and he's kind of finding some political independence, right? Like, he's kind of speaking out against his own party on some issues. He's supporting the GOP on some issues, but whether or not he actually is on the right side of things, it's hit or miss. I do say Fetterman, it's good to see him kind of staking out just his own brand a little bit, if you want to call it that, his own ideas. That's encouraging, but come on, like find a better issue than this one to stake your independence on. Because this is just this issue is receiving a lot of attention, but for a good reason. We don't want to see the right becoming like really where the left has been for the last 4, 5, 6 years. If we don't like something, we're going to get state lawmakers to ban it. I don't think people realize just how harmful that is. Choice is fundamental to a market economy, and more we see people that just wanted to deprive consumers of choices, and I think it's really harmful.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that people are citing claims about how the meat that's being processed right now is giving people cancer, and like all of our processed foods today. But it's kind of like, okay, but we don't have lab-grown meat today. I mean, what if lab-grown meat was actually healthy? What if it tasted exactly the same and it didn't give you cancer? If the claim is that modern meats, and I'm not saying that modern meats do, but everything in moderation. But the fact is that we don't know what the benefits or disadvantages of are if we aren't allowed to create it. It's kind of like, with a lot of these illegal drugs, the reason why they're dangerous is because they're illegal, right? And the last thing that we want to do is create some kind of an inspiration for a black market where lab-grown meat is being used and created in ways that might actually be harmful. If it's done out in the open and it's in a perfectly legal process, who knows what we might be able to accomplish? I mean, we're talking about something. Can you imagine telling people 5,000 years ago, yeah, humans are going to be able to create a way for an infinite cheat code, an infinite food glitch, and they're going to ban it? The government is going to prevent, and not just the government, like not just some dictator top-down thing. The people are actually going to call for it out of their own. I mean, there's always been this kind of like fearfulness amongst the population, John, right? It's like I made the metaphor or told the anecdote earlier. It's like whenever the first guy took an ox and pulled a steel plow behind it for the very first time, you had to know the villagers thought he was a witch, right? They were like, voodoo, that is voodoo, right? Like, we always burn people at the stake who are innovators, who are creators. I mean, look what we did to Alan Turing, for God's sakes, during World War II. I mean, we basically forced him to commit suicide. We chemically castrated him for being a homosexual, even though he basically saved the Allies' ass during World War II. He is homosexual. He eats the poo-poo. I mean, it's just a little, not to be too hyperbolic or anything.
There is a strain of humanity like that, and it's not just a strain. It seems like the majority of people are like that. Like you see somebody who does something differently. You see somebody who does something innovative, and our first instinct is to attack them. And I think it's an instinct that's getting worse. Like, we are seeing more and more of this, and it's across political parties and ideologies where we just attack people who are doing something different than the way we do. And why is it becoming worse? I'm not sure. I wonder if social media has something to do with it. We're able to find the kind of the nuttiest people on either side, and we hold them up and think like, oh, the world is going really crazy. Like, and these people are a threat to me, and protect ourselves from these threats. And we see it now with TikTok, right? That we gotta ban TikTok. We just can't have TikTok. And this isn't new. Like, if you go back to the 50s, I'm sure Austin, like the comic book wars, right? Where Congress was involved in, and unlike today, I guess we did ultimately get to legislation. It was an executive order, but lawmakers got together and said, we're going to have a code to protect people from the evils of these comic books. So we've been doing this for a long time. It predates the United States as well. But yeah, it's madness.
They wanted to ban comic books. The government wanted to ban comic books. There were a lot of people who were for that. They wanted to ban video games. There were a lot of people who were for that. They wanted to ban Twisted Sister, heavy metal, 1970s and 80s metal bands. If we let the prohibitionists just walk all over us, they would take away every ounce of joy that we have in this life, any pleasure that we might have in this life. But what I really think it is that puritanical mindset, is it not, John? It is, whether it's left or right. The prohibitionist mindset is that there's an H.L. Mencken quote for this. He said, Puritanism is the haunting fear that someone somewhere may be happy.
Yeah, no, I think puritanical is the right adjective to use. And another one is utopianist, right? We have a lot of people that think, the world needs to be made perfect. And the only thing standing in the way of our perfect world is people who aren't getting in line with what we think is the right economic system or the right set of values. So we have to use the force of law to get those people in, because we need to have a perfect world. And I think we need to understand, guys, the world's never going to be perfect. It's just not going to happen. But you talk to a lot of people, and I talk to some Christians I know that are of this mindset, or some socialists. We know utopianism is part of socialism. Like to achieve that perfect world, we just need the right system, the right set of beliefs. But the world doesn't work that way. Like, and we don't want everybody to have to follow a certain ideology or be part of this economic system that's ran this way or else. That's a dangerous mindset, but one that humans seem to be kind of leaning toward more than ever. There's something very fascistic about that, but I think that's kind of more and more. We don't call ourselves fascists today, but we're seeing fascism on the rise, and it means that we're going to use basically the force of law to institute our system and to punish our enemies. And
the wildest thing too is that so much of this so many of these fascistic policies, John, are coming from people who call themselves libertarians or say and claim to believe in limited government. So when you're seeing polls,
must be punished.
Yeah, John, can you hear me okay? Looks like we're breaking up a little bit with John. We're losing him. Hopefully we'll get him back here in just a second, though. We'll let the internet do its thing. John, can you hear me okay now? Hello. Okay, we're bringing. Yep, you're back. We just had a little bit of a little technical issue there. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. We're not going to solve the lab-grown meat question today here, but I would like to get your take on what's happening in the vehicle market. The average transaction price on a new vehicle was $46,660 last month, and that was compared to $39,950 only 3 years earlier. Repair maintenance costs are up 8.2% year over year. Insurance rates, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but they are up 22.2%. It seems like every other month I get a bill in the mail that says, "Oh, your insurance rates are going up." Not because we're bad drivers, we're not getting tickets, we're not getting into accidents, but we are getting just squeezed for every last penny. We don't even have a car payment. I don't know if you do, John, but more and more people are driving their vehicles until the wheels fall off. What's your take on what's happening in the auto market today? Because this affects everybody in the United States.
It's fun that you sent me this issue. We're actually going through it now. We don't have a car payment right now, but we are looking to buy a new car. We have like one nice family vehicle. Then we got kind of just an old commuter car. And my wife brought up the other day, like we should probably, get rid of this one. It's one that you'll drive it around, but you don't drive it, super far. So we're looking. There's a few things that stand out. First, the cost of borrowing is high. Okay, and it's going to depend on your credit score and all these things for this. But on average, you're looking for a brand new car, you're going to be paying about 7% interest on that. If you're buying a used vehicle, you're looking at closer to 12%. So the cost of borrowing money is high right now, which is why if we buy one, I told my wife we're going to pay cash, right? We can, we'll cash in a stock or we'll do something. I'm not going to borrow at 12%. But here's another thing. Vehicles themselves are the most expensive they've ever been. And I don't think the answer to this one is real difficult. This is still a pandemic related problem. If you look, we have millions of less vehicles than we otherwise would have if we had not shut down the economy for all those months and then created all those supply chain problems. And when you have millions of less inventory than you otherwise would have had, which you're putting a lot of demand on vehicles. And that all that increased demand is going to, basic economics says you're going to have higher prices for vehicles, which is exactly what we're seeing. Now, all the other costs associated with vehicles are a different story. The insurance costs, the repair costs, like those are, I think, a little bit more complicated. But I think the simple answer is interest rates are really high right now if you're going to be trying to borrow. So people don't want to buy a car right now, interest because money is more expensive. And then vehicles are just really expensive. And because we have the diminished supply. And what automakers do during this, that they lean into their most expensive vehicles. And it makes sense. They said, okay, we're going to, are the ones that we get less profit on, we're going to probably produce a little less of those, but we're going to make sure we get our top performers, our big sellers out there. And so people do have, a lot of the vehicles they are buying are probably on the higher end. But that's the whole point. If you can, ride that vehicle, if you trust it, if you can repair it without being too expensive, like that's good too, because a lot of these newer vehicles, you get them in, it's got a computer, and all the computer, like repairs for newer vehicles are more expensive on average. And we know this. So I think, drive that baby till the wheels fall off if you trust it. That's been my philosophy my whole life, by the way, which is why federal programs like Clash for Clunkers just pissed me off. I'm like, you're taking these vehicles that have value and that people would otherwise keep using for years, and you're paying them to be destroyed. It's bad economics. It's very frustrating. When
Reminds me of what they did during the Great Depression with food. They were destroying food during the Great Depression to keep prices high. People are starving, and they were destroying food to keep prices high for farmers while screwing over the consumers who couldn't afford to buy it while they were jacking up the prices. That's what the government does, is they hate poor people.
That is central planning, right? We're going to slaughter hundreds of thousands of pigs to keep the prices high, even though people are hungry. It's insane, economics. My little girl's going through like a Great Depression in history right now. And it's just the boilerplate progressive, all this stuff about how FDR saved us in this depression that just seemed to go on and on and on. And none of the economic madness that like the progressive, pushed through during the New Deal, like slaughtering hundreds of thousands of pigs. Cash for Clunkers was, as you point out, just the same thing. We're going to take perfectly good vehicles, destroy them, make taxpayers pay people for them. Don't if you like your vehicle and it's still working for you, I'd ride it out a little longer. And again, you say that maybe interest rates go up higher. Like we none of us has a crystal ball. And all of us are trying to make that right decision. And maybe it doesn't make sense to replace your transmission, when it goes, because then the fuel pump is going to go afterwards. We don't know how our cars are going to behave. But bottom line, if you have a vehicle you trust, keep riding it right now, if you ask me.
We love to hear it, John. Thanks for the advice and your insight on this and more, including the lab-grown meat. We appreciate you, John. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go today?
Yeah, well, there's one. I always say go to fee.org and check out the site, but I do have a new article up on Karl Marx on there and what he could learn from Jordan Peterson. And Peterson actually shared that one on Twitter yesterday, so it's getting some attention. So check it out. I think it's a great lesson about socialists who want to run the entire world but can't even manage their own lives and clean their own house. So check that one out.
Good stuff, John. We appreciate you very much. Thanks so much for joining us. And as usual, Mondays with Miltimore is a killer hit. Thank you for being so generous with your time. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, you have a great week, AP. Good seeing you.
All right, let's give it up for John Miltimore. A little bit less than 10 minutes until our friend Michael Christian joins us for the very first time live on the Wake Up America show, our new sponsor, Preserve Gold, helping us to grow the Wake Up America show. Yeah. Can't wait to hear from him about interest rates, inflation, gold, and silver. Silver and gold, silver and gold. But before we get to Michael Christian, you guys know what Monday means? Not only Mondays with Miltimore, it means that Stephanie's got a brand new hustling and homemaking video out. Oh, yes. So don't forget, starting at 9:05 a.m. Central Time, we are going to release the beast. Her new video is all about making eggs in an air fryer. Stephanie has been flummoxed. Thank you for the $5 word there. I know that I'm going to get paid. Stephanie was flummoxed over how to create a hard-boiled egg. She was struggling with making hard-boiled eggs. She would boil them. They would take too long. They would go too long. Then she wasn't able to crack them without ripping them apart. So she found what she thinks is a hack, an air fryer egg hack, and she tested it out on camera for you all to watch. It's her new series, Hustling and Homemaking. This one will premiere live this morning at 9:05 a.m. Central Time. So make sure that right after the show is over today, that you head over to apforlibertyshop.com. You'll click on the little link down there that you'll see to watch her video live. Click to watch right there. There's the button. Her new show featuring her stories, balancing pregnancy, motherhood, homemaking, and keeping a career on the side. Follow along Steffi with her adventures in hustling and homemaking. Today's video, the air fryer egg hack. Just a reminder for those of you who are on the Locals community, if you're a part of the Wake Up America Show .locals.com community, Stephanie's newest videos do drop a day early for you as a benefit of your membership over there. So if you are a member of the Wake Up America Show .locals.com community, then Stephanie's hustling and homemaking videos come out early over there. So this one actually dropped yesterday for those who are part of our Locals community. So if you haven't seen it yet, though, make sure that you head on over to the shop, apforlibertyshop.com. We also have an exciting announcement. Speaking of AP for Liberty Shop, thanks to Quantum Kitty and Andy Opperman, we have now unlocked the bonus content. Yes. So what's a girl to do? We are going to play the bonus content for you today. You get to find out what the theme is of the week. Today's was really fun to make. I hope that you all appreciate it and enjoy it. Thank you very much for supporting the Wake Up America show. I'm going to go ahead and get Michael Christian. Michael Christian, know your time has come. We're going to talk a little bit about our newest sponsor, Preserve Gold, helping us to fight for economic freedom and personal liberty on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Enjoy. Wake Up America show, our bonus content theme will look at video games with libertarian themes. Today we will give a broad overview, with the rest of the week a more up-close view of these games. Today's mini-documentary looks at 6 video games every libertarian should play. Welcome to our video on 6 video games every libertarian should play, exploring games that resonate with themes of individual choice and political freedom. Video games have revolutionized storytelling by centering player interactivity and choice, unlike traditional passive media. Players craft their own narratives within the frameworks designed by game creators. As technology has advanced, games have increasingly embraced complex choices, allowing players to create personalized stories. This shift reflects a broader cultural move towards niche, individualized experiences. For libertarians, video games represent a fusion of technology and personal freedom, often incorporating concepts that appeal to their philosophy. Let's dive into 6 compelling games that challenge authority and explore freedom, making them particularly appealing to libertarian players. Fallout 3 offers a post-apocalyptic vision of Washington, D.C., filled with power struggles and threats to personal liberty. A post-apocalyptic role-playing game set in a bombed-out futuristic Washington, D.C. known as the Capital Wasteland. Warring tribes of wannabe authority figures fight for control. Thugs and scammers try to take your guns and your money at every turn. Super-intelligent robots try to re-engineer society, and the whole place is overrun with super mutants. In other words, it's a lot like the Washington, D.C. we all know and love today. Fallout 3 is also one of the most expansive, open, and darkly funny games ever made. BioShock transports players to an underwater city based on libertarian and anarchistic ideals. The game critiques and plays with the concept of extreme individualism through its engaging narrative twist. Players fight their way through the ruins of an Art Deco underwater city set up as a kind of sci-fi anarchist utopia, where biological modification is plentiful, looters are treated as scum, and the pursuit of individual desire and accomplishment is treated as life's most noble goal. The villain is clearly intended as a riff on Ayn Rand's super-individualists, but in a mid-game twist he shows he's not simply a bad guy. BioShock from satirical, action-driven homage to Rand into a clever riff on the perception of individual freedom and the nature of choice. In Red Dead Redemption, players experience the Wild West through John Marston, a character torn between corrupt government forces. This open-world Western's anti-government individualism is so strong that it's occasionally accused of being outright libertarian propaganda. But what it really offers is character-driven perspective. Players step into the boots of John Marston, a former outlaw who resentfully sells his gun to both the Mexican army and corrupt agents of the U.S. government. Agents help take his family hostage. The forces on both sides of the border are ugly, and Marston, a reformed family man, wants no part of any of it. In the end, players take the role of Marston's son in order to extract a year's delayed payback. Red Dead Redemption is a great genre piece about the decline of the outlaw West, and a surprisingly affecting look at the generational consequences of violence. Fable the Third combines economics and politics within its gameplay. Players engage in a dynamic market and political promises, reflecting the challenges of leadership and governance. The game's setting revolves around a revolution occurring against a corrupt tyrant, and the player's decisions for good or evil will see him becoming either a hero or the dictatorial tyrant himself. L.A. Noire sets players in post-WW2 Los Angeles as a detective solving crimes. Set in 1947 Los Angeles, the game follows Detective Cole Phelps's rise among the ranks of the Los Angeles Police Department as he solves a range of cases across various bureaus. When he is tasked with investigating a morphine distribution ring involving several of his former squad mates from World War II, Phelps finds both his personal and professional life falling into turmoil, and reluctantly joins forces with his estranged former comrade, Jack Kelso, as they uncover a major conspiracy involving prominent Los Angeles figures. Lastly, Deus Ex: Human Revolution explores the ethical and societal impacts of human augmentation. Deus Ex: Human Revolution casts players in the role of Adam Jensen, a grim security chief at a biotech corporation that specializes in human augmentation. Set in a bleak cyberpunk future, the game kicks off when anti-biotech militants break into the headquarters of Jensen's company on the eve of a legislative hearing about biotech regulations. Jensen fends off the attackers but is injured and must be rebuilt with biological enhancements. From there, players must uncover the truth about the break-in against the backdrop of an ongoing debate about the safety and ethics of human augmentation. The game's cast will be familiar to anyone who has followed such debates in real life. Uncompromising anti-science radicals, moderates who favor regulation, self-interested political players, scheming corporate leaders, and apolitical scientists. The noir story has no heroes.
These games not only provide entertainment, but also provoke thought about freedom, authority, and individual rights, making them a must-play for those interested in these themes. Thank you for watching our exploration of these 6 libertarian-themed video games. Whether for their deep narratives or their critical take on societal norms, each game offers a unique perspective on freedom and choice.
Good morning, everyone. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Don't forget to click that like button. And if it's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, the show's schedule is every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a 2-hour Freedom Fest. So make sure you click follow on the feed so you can come back and join us on the regs. All right, well, you've had your regular guests. Now it's time to meet some new names and faces. My next guest joining us here in just a couple of minutes is one of the secrets of our success. And you know I'm a big fan of economic freedom and personal liberty, which means, of course, I'm not a big fan of central banks. Now, the Federal Reserve is obviously one of the big problems when it comes to monetary policy here in the United States. We were just talking about the cost of vehicles, the cost of repairs, the cost of maintenance. Well, you can go back and point your finger at central banks that have played a role in every little bit of inflation that we've seen along the way. But you know what? I'm just a humble freedom merchant, right? I'm not an economist. I'd like to talk to some people who know a thing or two about the economy, maybe even more than me. Our sponsors at Preserve Gold have sent a guest. Michael Christian is joining us live right now. Nice to meet you, Michael. Thank you very much for joining us, and thanks for sponsoring the Wake Up America show.
Oh, you're welcome. It's great to be here and talk to you and your listeners.
Glad to have you here, Michael. Last week, the Federal Reserve stepped in it and said that they're going to leave the interest rates unchanged. There's a lot of uncertainty and doubt in the economy right now. We were just talking before you came on here about the inflated price of new vehicles. A lot of people are concerned about just going to the grocery store. The average price remains higher than their pre-pandemic levels. March prices rose 3.5% over last year. Higher gas, higher housing prices, a presidential election coming down the pike. Michael, why do prices continue to rise?
Well, look, they told us inflation was transitory, and then a few months later, we woke up and we realized we actually do have an inflation problem. At the end of last year, they told us inflation was under control, and they're going to start lowering rates. Well, here we are today, and inflation's getting worse, right? So this is the worst inflation that we've had in the last 40 years. The last time inflation was this bad was back in the 1980s, and they had to take interest rates to almost 20% to truly deal with the inflation that time around. Keep in mind, though, in the 1980s, we had about $3 trillion debt load. Today, we have almost a $35 trillion debt load, which tells me, and it makes sense, that they may have to take interest rates well north of 20% to actually deal with the inflation. Right now, we have interest rates around 7%. So every time the interest rates go up, banks lose money, both on their assets and because they have to pay depositors more. So the U.S. banking system is in trouble at the moment. It's already sitting at about $500 billion in losses. And I think any increase in the interest rates threatens to cause another wave of bank failures. I believe that's why the Fed stopped raising interest rates shortly after SVB collapsed. And I think the Fed at the moment, they're facing a tough choice. Can they do nothing and let inflation smolder? Or can they raise rates, fight inflation, but risk destabilizing the banking system? And I think given the choice, they'll always choose systematic stability over the American family. And look, if you ever doubt this, just remember the great financial crisis and remember who got bailed out. So we've got a long way to go to really get inflation under control. I don't think we're anywhere near where the Biden administration with the Federal Reserve is letting on in terms of where inflation should be right now. Prices are up across the board. There's a crisis in the Middle East. That's going to send oil prices even higher. Americans can't afford to fuel their cars at the tank. You know, they can't afford to move out of your house because what are you going to do? Move into a house that's 7% interest rate right now? That's ridiculous. So people are stuck where they are. You know, ordinary Americans go for groceries or gas and their paychecks simply are not buying what they used to. So you could call it inflation, but what it really feels like is a standard of living downgrade. And for the last 3 years, inflation has averaged 3 times the Fed's target. It's not getting better. It's getting just worse and worse and worse under this administration. It's like the economy is like, it's like a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, it's enough to make you wish for the return of Paul Volcker. He saw those inflation rates you were talking about, 14.8% in March of 1980, fell below 3% by 1983. But we don't have a Paul Volcker anymore. There are no inflation hawks. It's spend, spend, spend. It even, I think John Maynard Keynes would look at this and say, okay, perhaps we've gone a little bit too far. But Preserve Gold sent you here today to talk to us a little bit about the relationship between inflation and the prices of gold. Many of my friends who are big gold bugs and they love silver as well, they've been ringing the alarm bell for years about buying gold. Talk to us a little bit about the relationship of the price of gold to the Federal Reserve's inflationary monetary policy.
Well, I'll tell you this. Gold has been around 6,000 years, okay? It's real money. You literally open up the Bible, it's mentioned 420 times. So gold is a direct measure of its strength or weakness against the US dollar. If you have a dollar that's declining in value from inflation, excessive money printing, as investors become convinced that the government's going to keep printing money, essentially inflating the debt away, they're going to get rid of their dollars now, and that drives the price of goods and services up across the economy. Essentially, what that does is create a form of a run on the dollar. For the first time in the history, the government's going to spend more on debt service payments than it does on defense. And that's obscene. JP Morgan's CEO, Jamie Dimon, called the national debt recently, quote, the most predictable crisis we've ever had. And he's absolutely right. The rest of the world is actively de-dollarizing at the same time that our federal government is looking to borrow even more. And when you add supply, when demand is declining, it means a loss of purchasing power. So we've got bad economic policies. I mean, these massive spending packages in Congress are having a dramatic effect on the dollar. And this is all going to send gold prices higher. In the same way, when money is rotating out of stocks and bonds during a market volatility or during a market crash, as many of the financial veterans and analysts are predicting is going to happen soon, sooner than later. This money just needs a safe place to go, and it tends to gravitate towards gold first because it's considered a safe haven investment. And that also causes prices of gold to go higher. But even more importantly, as you said, if you look at what the central banks are doing right now, central banks are buying gold now at the fastest rate we haven't seen in over 50 years. As a matter of fact, the last time central banks were buying gold at these levels was 50 years ago. We saw gold go up 5 times from when they started buying. Keep in mind, 50 years ago, when the central banks were buying gold, it wasn't just central banks around the world. It was just the U.S. central bank, which sent gold prices up exponentially. So today, it's not just the U.S. central bank buying gold, it's central banks around the world. So if gold just does half of what it did 50 years ago, investors are going to be in great shape. When the central bank buys gold, they're not just day trading gold. They're buying gold. They're holding it for 10 to 15 years or longer. So if the price of gold drops, they just pull up a truck and they buy more. So what that does for investors right now, it creates a really nice floor, and it mitigates downside risk. So if the price of gold drops from where it is right now, it's going to be like falling out of a basement window where you just drop, but you don't get hurt. When you compare that to the upside, we think gold prices can move up dramatically higher from here. So gold's moving up based on the value of the dollar. The dollar's losing value. There's a lot of volatility in the markets. Almost every respected financial analyst is calling for a recession.
Speaking of Michael Christian, he is the Director of Client Relations for Preserve Gold, and we're glad to have him here today. If you like what you're hearing from Michael, don't forget to click that like button. If you have a question for Michael or myself, you can send us a text at 573-319-1586. We're glad to have him here. Michael, investing in gold can be complicated if you go out there and you search by yourself online. There's a million different people out there who will tell you one thing or another. If the people who are listening to the Wake Up America show live right now are interested in investing in more gold, what's the best way for them to get the process started, to at least, start to dip their toes in and learn a little bit more about different ways to invest in gold? Because you can buy physical coins, but there are some other ways to invest in physical gold as well, right?
Absolutely. First of all, our company, Preserve Gold, is really excellent at educating people. You know, we take our time. That's what we pride ourselves in. So if you want to buy gold, literally just give us a call. You could call us at 866-960-6404. Again, that's 866-960-6404. You can go to our website, preservegold.com, www.preservegold.com. You can also text in the word liberty to 50505. Text liberty to 50505. And when you give us a call, we'll send out our free information on how to get started. And for a lot of people, this is the first time. So again, we pride ourselves on educating so that people don't feel like they're coming in with their eyes closed. We're happy to help however we can, whether it's your first time or you're an experienced investor.
Michael, is there anything else that you think our listeners should know before we let you go today?
Well, now's the time. Don't put your head in the sand. We can help out. And there's a lot going on right now that makes gold the place to, you want to shift whether you have a 401k or an IRA. You know, there's economic advisors and analysts now that are saying that you could have a 101k. So you can put gold into a retirement account and you can convert cash that's sitting exposed to what's going on with the dollar into gold. And we're happy to help.
Well, we're very happy to have you here with us today. Michael Christian, the Director of Client Relations for our sponsor, Preserve Gold. We're very grateful to have you here. Thank you for being so generous with your time today, Michael. And we hope you have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you again real soon. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great to be here. And all the best to all your listeners.
Thank you very much. That's Michael Christian. Let's give him a round of applause. What do you say? And you can text the word liberty to 50505. That's liberty to the number 50505. Secure your financial future. Help to grow the Wake Up America show and feed our family as well. Our Liberty family is growing like crazy. It's thanks to people like Preserve Gold that we're able to grow this show, not only grow this show, but grow other shows as well. We've got a whole slate of ideas for new content, for new shows, new talk shows. I'm even talking about creating a 24-hour-a-day live stream with 12 hours of original content every single day. Would you like to see me make something like that happen? I think you would. Yes. Austin's show is over, then we do Camelia's show, then we do Stephanie's show, then we do we do Sepulveda, we do a bunch of different shows, maybe a cooking show, all kinds of different fun shows, all liberty-based around the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty. Well, you can help make that happen and secure your financial future today by texting the word liberty to 50505. You get a free information packet. There's no obligation to buy anything right away, and they're not going to spam the heck out of you. Just text the word liberty to 50505. You'll get a free gold and silver information packet, and you can do wonderful things today. There you go. Okay, what do you guys think? Shall we move on? Okay, great. Good stuff. Glad you guys like that. Shadow Collector says, I liked that Michael Christian guy. He's really paying attention to the Fed. Absolutely. Bitch Mobile says, some good insight from that guest. Good. Glad you enjoy that. And I think you guys liked the bonus content as well, eh? Video game themes. Yes. Some listeners were texting in while we were having a chat. One said, fun that you had the video game bonus content. My wife says she recommends Tales of Arise for a libertarian game. Ooh, good suggestion. Another listener says, when I was driving home from work one day, driving by a dealership, I saw a car I wanted. I drove up to it, see the price and mileage, saw the price and mileage, and bought it the next day. There you go. If you'd like to text the show, you can do so. See that number on the screen? 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Are we having fun today? This has been a good show so far, right? You guys want to see something funny? Do you guys need some liberal tears this morning to drink? Are you thirsty for some liberal tears now that you've had your founding flavors coffee? Now you need some delicious liberal tears. ABC News in Arizona had a conversation with a senior, Brianna Brocker, outside the courthouse. She had been arrested. She will not be able to graduate because she got suspended for acts of violence on the Arizona State University campus for the pro-Palestine protests. And now she is speaking to the media. And doesn't she just look lovely?
I mean, I'm a little disappointed.
She's not going to get to graduate.
I I'm being restricted from a lot of things right now that I didn't expect to be for standing up for something that I believe in.
When will you learn? When will you learn that your actions have consequences? Actions have consequences.
You know,
This isn't an 18-year-old high school senior. This is a 21, 22, 23-year-old college not graduate adult.
I have family coming in who I have to let them know to, you know, not come to my graduation ceremonies. I am glad that there is a guarantee that my courses will be taken care of, so I don't have to worry necessarily about my graduation requirements and the fact that I will earn my degree as I have spent the past 4 years doing, but I'm just disappointed. I mean, I'm a 2020 high school grad, so I wasn't able to walk then. And
I guess they're not fixing kids' teeth these days.
so, you know, here it is.
You know,
I'm not able to walk now.
Knowing, you know, what you know now, and, you know, like you said, you were standing up for a cause, would you do it again?
I mean, yeah, I would.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap. Lies.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
I was doing what I believed was right, and I still believe it to be right. I would stand up for the cause again, even if it means something.
I guarantee you she has no idea what the cause is. I promise you she doesn't even know a single ding dang thing about Israel or Palestine.
Negative to me, because like the cause.
Jesus, what is going on with that gap there in the
Stand up for the cause again, even if it means something.
Drive a semi truck through that thing
Negative
there.
to me, because like the cause is so much harm has been done to all of those people already. I am safe. I am fine. I might not graduate, and that might harm future job prospects and stuff like that, but I'm not I'm not like in physical danger. I'm not constantly worried about being hurt or being forced from my home or anything like that.
How do these people get themselves to even the 4th year of college? I mean, for the love of God. It's the Wake Up America show where everything is amazing and leftist tears are drank on the regular. Yes. If you're just turning into the Wake Up America show, have you clicked that like button yet? It's time. It's time for you to head on over and click that like. We'd be glad to have you join us regularly. It's been exciting to see that our audience is growing, that the people who join the Wake Up America show in the mornings are starting to be more regular. There are lots of new names and faces like Dad Bod Baboon joining us. He's starting to hang out a little bit more. What's up, Dad Bod Baboon? I know you enjoy the content. I know you're friends with us. Is Dad Bod Baboon the type of guy that you would meet in the forest other than a bear? Would you rather meet Dad Bod Baboon in the forest, or would you rather meet a bear? Austin, what are you talking about? Well, I'm talking about the latest trend that's going around on the internet, pitting men against women, which is a hypothetical question that is being posed to women on the street. They're doing the man on the street thing, except they're asking women, if you were to be in a forest and you could choose whether or not you would run into a random man or a bear, which would you rather run into? I kid you not. This is a real question that they are asking young ladies these days. Would they rather run into a bear, or would they rather run into a man? And I actually have a video clip, man or bear. Let me grab it for you. Why don't I play it? We've got a little bit of time before Ben Baker comes on anyway. So let me ask the ladies out there, if you're watching the Wake Up America show live right now, answer in the comments. Would you rather be stuck in a forest with a man or a bear? Okay, so you're stuck in a forest. Okay, that's the question.
In a forest with a man or bear?
Man or bear is this week's idiotic waste of time, and the answers that people are giving are very predictable because they're stupid.
Bear. Man is scary. With a bear.
Well, I've heard about bears. They don't always attack you, right? So maybe a bear.
Probably a bear.
Oh, 100% a bear, which is like terrifying to say, but
Definitely a bear. Some men are very scary out there.
a bear.
Even some men are saying bear, although we could predict that this man's opinion will be whatever makes women approve of him.
Right. This man's opinion will be whatever makes women approve of him. Notice you can tell that he's a simp or a beta male here. He's signaling to us that he has the vagina juice. And there it is right there. You can see
If I were alone in the woods, would you rather me encounter a bear or a man?
I feel more like bear. I don't know, because I feel like I would know what the outcome would be with a bear.
Of course, clearly a great source of bear advice. So here's the thing. I have met bears in the woods. I am bear aware. That's what they say in bear country. Bears are a big deal in bear country, and they want you to keep them to a bare minimum. Bear spray costs $50. I've also met men in the woods, and I gotta tell you,
bear spray does cost $50. It's very expensive because we were trying to buy some because we got pit bulls that people like to let wander around in our neighborhood. And so we looked at bear spray and it was like $50. It's like, man, a 9mm bullet just costs certain, so like, 20 cents. So anyways, what do you think? If you were a woman, would you rather run into a bear in the woods or would you rather run into a random man? You're stuck in the woods. You come across a man or a bear. How would you answer? Well, my friend Squiggly Line Guy over at thelibertarianrepublic.com wrote an awesome piece. Highly recommend it. I'll drop it down in the Rumble chat for you all to read. There you go. And it had some really funny things in it. Here's what Squigs had to say. Last week, social media became busy regarding an odd premise. Women began proactively offering that they should be asked the hypothetical question, if you were hiking in the woods, would you rather come across a man or a bear? And women said they would answer a bear, right? But of course, much like finding out somebody is a vegan, nobody actually asked them that, right? Some of them did. Now, men would fire back that not all men were dangerous to women, and any bear you run into in the woods is dangerous. Duh, right? Yes, exactly, right? But what I thought was funny was that in the attempt to make men appear to be more dangerous, evil, killer, rapists that they are, this story from the New York Post came out on the 2nd, which Squigs highlights in this article. And he dropped a casual bit of information there, which you can do with as you please, where he said, here seems like a good place to casually mention that just about every day, a female adult sexually assaults a grade school boy. What are you talking about? Well, this story of the Wisconsin elementary school teacher busted for making out with a 5th grader 3 months before her wedding. Yes, it is true that almost every single day in this country, usually a female teacher sexually assaults a grade school child. And this young lady, of course, was no exception. 24 years old, busted for making out with a 5th grader 3 months before the wedding. So if you had to decide, gentlemen, if you would allow your 5th grade son to appear in a forest with either his female elementary school teacher or a bear, I think we should say we vote bear. Okay. All right. So Ben Baker from Southwest Missouri, here to give you an update on what happened at the Republican convention. The grassroots won and the grassroots lost. It's good that they won, and it's good that they lost. We'll explain why when we get back with Ben Baker on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Enjoy.
The Cantina crew, this is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter, and I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America Show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive. And if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
If I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors, what would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter, male, female.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. Good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Appreciate all of our listeners who are joining us live this morning. Do me a favor. Click that like button. We'd love to have you come back and join us on the regs. We have got a Monday through Friday show schedule, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. So, I'm a full-time freedom fighter, which means that Monday through Friday, I'm working hard for the money, getting out there, fighting for economic freedom and personal liberty. And I also like to spend my weekends volunteering to fight for liberty. This weekend, I spent my time at Missouri's Republican Convention as an elected delegate to try and advance the ideas that I believe in. I joined about 1,000 other people in a convention center to talk about what the future of the Republican Party should be. And there were a lot of hang-ups, a lot of mess-ups. It took us 4 hours to get started. And then at the very end of the convention, we weren't even able to finish it because we just didn't have time. Some people blamed my next guest. His name is Ben Baker, Missouri State Representative. They're from Southwest Missouri. He's joining us on the phones right now. Good morning, Ben. How are you feeling today?
Good morning, Austin. I'm fantastic.
Glad to have you
How
here.
are you?
I'm okay, Ben. What was your takeaway from the Missouri Republican Convention? Because I felt like the grassroots really had a big victory and that everything worked out pretty well, but some people were kind of mad at you. What was your takeaway?
Yeah, so it was quite a spectacle. I'm sure there are very differing opinions on that, but as you know, I am one that I think it's important that we always are consistent what we believe, and that we, especially when it comes to rules, party of law and order as Republicans. And so Saturday, when it came to the state convention, for me, if I were to just sum it all up, I think it was more about the process rather than it was content. Obviously, I think the takeover or the coup, whatever word you want to use for what happened, was well organized, well planned. All of those things, and props to the people who were able to pull that off. But again, I think there were some major inconsistencies with how that was done, and especially when it came to the rules. So most of my objections when it came to that process were regarding the rules that we passed as a body. Also the inconsistencies with people who, they want hand counting of paper ballots and all of that, but they don't want hand counting of paper ballots in their own meetings, which I think is hypocritical at best. That was one of the issues. I spoke against some of the amendments. I think they were just terribly worded, had unintended consequences with that. And then, to me, my opinion of the whole purpose of this was amendment number 16, which was the vetting issue. And I have strong objections to that. I don't think it's what we should be doing as Republicans and definitely as conservatives.
What is the vetting issue, Ben?
So for me, it is what they're trying to do with that is to put it in the hands of a small group of people who I don't even know who they are, to determine who can be on the ballot, and say, if you don't uphold everything that we put into the platform, and they were putting things into the platform that a lot of people objected to, almost half of the people who were there as delegates. So again, representation of the state didn't agree with, but they're saying that if you don't agree 100% with that platform, then you would be disassociated from the Republican Party, and they would not accept your filing fee, and therefore could not run as a Republican because you didn't agree with them. I think that is not the way this country was built. I think we should listen to our voters and the people in our districts when it comes to who should be on the ballot, and allow them to vet the candidates. I think they're smart enough and have the ability to do that. So I think that was one of the things that I objected to. Most of the amendments on the premise, and I even said this in some of my objections, but most of the amendments on premise I agreed with. But the process matters. They did try to change the rule to make it to where amendments did not have to be distributed. Therefore, at a time, people who came would not know what was in those amendments. And then they were trying to pass all the amendments on a slate at once. Again, not the way we should be doing things as Republicans, and it's the Nancy Pelosi way of doing it.
Yeah, you used to. Yeah.
After we.
Right. So here's how I saw it. Big picture, this is how it went down this weekend. The grassroots came. They were highly organized. Many supporters of candidate Bill Eigel were there. I felt like they were kind of trying to turn it into a campaign rally when we were trying to do business. Nevertheless,
yes.
One of his communications manager managed to win the spot for chair. I actually thought she did a fine job. I thought she was very fair, and she ran a fairly tight meeting. But because of all the chaos in the morning, we didn't get started until 4 hours late. Okay, that's fine. The important business of voting on the officers and the RNC committeemen and the people who are going to drive forward the Missouri Republican Party in the coming years, that got done. And I thought it was exciting, Ben, because the grassroots really threw out the establishment. I mean, the guy who was supposed to be our RNC committeeman, he was sending text messages to all of us, spending thousands of dollars to try and win that spot. And then he got up and proceeded to lecture us. I mean, I don't know if anybody booed louder than me, but I was definitely a big booer when he was trying to tell us we didn't understand what an RNC committeeman did.
Yes.
And then when the other guy got up, when the David Leitner guy got up, and he was introduced as a guy who came in with the Ron Paul movement back in 2012, and he was talking about the things that he believes in the future of the party, and I was like, I'm voting for the Ron Paul guy. I don't like the guy who stands up there and tells me that I don't understand what the job is. The people who show up to these conventions understand what the jobs are. Okay, we're the few people who actually pay attention to things. But I digress. And then, at the very end of the convention, Ben, and this is what you were really talking about, there is the fight over the platform. And it seemed as if the grassroots had won all these victories all day. And I was siding with the grassroots and I voted with the grassroots and I was excited. But then when they started to push for all these wild and wacky and weird, amendments, and then they wanted to slam them through, you stood up and you said, hey, we need to have time to debate these things, but we didn't have time to debate these things, so it all got thrown out. Is that a pretty good analysis of the whole event?
Yeah, so you're right. There are some things toward there was a chemtrails amendment, that was so ridiculous in how it was worded. Farmers wouldn't be able to spray their crops. Just crazy stuff. And, I noticed that we probably don't have a quorum in the building. Another representative that's stuck it out through the day also did. And again, that's a problem because if you don't have a quorum, then it's definitely not representative of the people of this state who are voting on these things, definitely not representative of what would be put into the platform at that point. And so that's what happened. He made the motion to say, I note the absence of a quorum. We counted that. And here's another issue I had with the chairwoman at this point, and that is we counted those people. We took the number up, and then they looked at the number, and then she said, okay, I think everybody needs to sit down. People are moving around. We need to make this count again. To which I objected to on the microphone. I said, wait a minute, did we get a number and now you're asking for a recount or what's happening? And she said, no, we're just going to sit down and do this again. So we counted again. And at that point, I had people asking me, hey, so-and-so went to the bathroom. Can we wait on them or can we go ahead and count them? They're a delegate. I can speak to the fact. And I said, no, the rules say you have to be in your seat, or your alternate delegate has to be in your seat, or they will not be counted when we count these votes. So there was an attempt at the last when they realized they probably didn't have a quorum to try to bring people in and delay the vote, and I disagreed with that as well. Again, violating the rules. So obviously what happened is that second count was still correct. There was not a quorum of voters there, which means the business had to end immediately, and what was on the table died, which was the platform. So as I understand it, I'm still trying to completely understand the legal ramifications of this, but as I understand it, I think we go back to the 2016 platform because 2020 we did not have a convention because of COVID. So I'm not sure how this is going to play out legally, even with the RNC of what was happening, especially when there wasn't a quorum with some of that business. So I don't know. It's to be determined.
Interesting. Now, I just got a text message from someone who was there. They said there was no end time to the convention. If people had stayed, it could have gone all night. I was told that we got kicked out of that building at a certain point, Ben.
Yeah, I heard that too. I think they probably did have a certain amount of time that we had rented the building for. Again, I don't know what would have happened if we would have went beyond that. Would they actually kick us out? Was there somebody else who had to be there? I don't know. But the point is, it went way too long, and my contention is that this is going to have a chilling effect on people being engaged in this the next time, because who wants to go for 12 hours at a meeting like that? Most people don't. And so I think there will be some major negative consequences to this. Although I agree with you, I think there was a message sent by people who are frustrated with what people would term as the establishment, or whatever term they would like to use for that. And I don't think that should be discounted. But I do think that some of those frustrations are misdirected severely toward people and things that aren't the real problem and don't actually address the real frustrations that those people have. And I think that's something that should be discussed, a lot, and have those conversations so that people understand.
Well, see, it seemed to me we kind of got the best of both worlds to an extent at the convention, because we had the establishment candidates who were being pushed on us, endorsed by this and this and that and that. And I think it actually kind of backfired that they were pushing these candidates for the RNC committeemen and women jobs so hard that people were kind of like, all right, let us choose, right? And those people, the anti-establishment candidates won there. That was exciting. That was a lot of fun. And it seemed to me that by the time we got to the fight about the platform, that the excesses of democracy were starting to show themselves, right? That the things that our founding fathers were fearful of, that there would be too much moving too fast, too quickly, and without us having time to debate, that the convention not having a quorum and then being brought to a close was really the best outcome, because it reminds me a little bit of that old Calvin Coolidge quote, Ben, where he said, "It's far better to kill bad bills than it is to pass good ones," meaning that when it came to all of those amendments, they were trying to ram them through there at the very end, but it was better that we just stop it cold, go back to 2016. That platform was good enough at the time, rather than introduce a whole bunch of idiosyncrasies. And speak to this, Ben. This is my last point on this, and I want to have you respond to this. It seemed as if we were introducing into the platform contradictory amendments. So on one hand, if the platform contradicts itself on one hand, and then you force all of the Republican candidates to adhere to the platform, what do they do when the platform contradicts itself? We're setting ourselves up for failure.
Absolutely. And, that's why I really oppose the vetting issue, but also because I don't know what the platform is going to look like either in the next 4 years. Like, I can't sign my name to something that I don't know what it's going to look like. And to me, that's a real problem. We're asking people to do that and to put their name to it. And I don't think it's not a consistent principle with, I believe, what we say we believe as Republicans and as conservatives. And then again, I believe the rules matter. And I think, I hope that now people are disseminating all kinds of crazy things about why I did what I did, even so much to say that I was asking people to leave, obviously, so that we could not have a quorum. That is all ridiculous, and it's a narrative that they're trying to spread, but whatever. I think the truth is most level-headed people that were there, I think, saw my intentions as being pure, and that was questioning the process and our inconsistencies in that process and the hypocrisy of that rather than the content. So it was a very interesting thing to see play out. I agree. I think in the end, this is probably a good thing, even in the way that it happened, because I think there were some people who their character was revealed through all of this, and that was brought to light to people. But also, I think people realize that, as a party, these things matter when it comes to the platform. That words matter, and how all of that plays out is very important, and we do need more time to vet those things and to have proper debate on those things. So in all, I think it's a weird way to say it, but I think it was a success for the people of this state, as messy as it was.
Ben, this might not be a nice way to put it, but I sometimes am tempted to feel this way. Is the platform like the place where we give all of our autistic people in the party a chance to go and have their voices heard? Because at the end of the day, they spend so many hours and hours and hours fighting over this platform. Nobody reads the platform, and the politicians, they have their own platforms. The candidates, the people who run for office, they run on their own platform. They vote for their own constituents in their own districts. And at the end of the day, it's non-binding. I mean, they can say, "Oh, this is binding. You have to appeal to it, or we're not going to accept your funds." But that's never going to happen. I mean, it seems like a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing, or as some people might call, a tempest in a teacup. I don't get it. It just seems to me a little bit inane. Spent all this time and energy fighting over something that has no impact in the real world. Am I off base there, Ben?
No, I agree completely. And that's what I was saying with misdirected frustration. If people would have put their energy that they put into fighting the real enemy and the real problems, and address those, and spend their time volunteering and campaigning for the right candidates and all of that have a consistent record and all of those things of being a true conservative, I think we would be much better off. But too often, and this plays out in many areas of life, not just in politics, too often people spend their energy and their time on the wrong things and have misdirected frustrations. We even do that in marriage sometimes. I mean, we get frustrated at one thing and we take it out on our spouse. It's terrible. It's awful. It doesn't help our relationship. And then we have to work through that. And this is the same principle that is happening with our party right now. I think there's a lot of misdirected frustration. And rather than fighting the enemy, we're fighting ourselves. And in the end, I think we could really be damaged and lose because of it. It's what happened with the Democrats when they had a majority in this state, really not that long ago. They splintered themselves to the point where they lost. And I don't want to see that happen to us. And that's why I'm trying to fight for the right things and be consistent with all of this, regardless of how people may see it. So
For sure.
It's always an interesting endeavor.
Well, actually, my friend Joyce McIntosh, who I sat next to in Cole County, she's a fellow Cole County delegate. She's a little bit confused because the grassroots groups are angry at you, Ben, and now they're angry at me because I agreed with you. And so Joyce McIntosh, a lovely lady, she says, this is going through some of the grassroots groups. She says, you don't like it that the platform didn't pass, do you? And she's texting me right now. So I hope that Joyce is tuning in and listening because I told you, nice job on the quorum. You essentially, you used parliamentary procedure to stop people from pulling a Nancy Pelosi and ramming through a bunch of amendments without any debate. So yes, I absolutely support that because we should have time to debate these issues. We should have a chance to actually consider these things and not just pass them willy-nilly, because there was a motion on the floor to just pass a whole package of amendments without any debate, right?
Yes, and that emotion is the problem. And too often I see this in Jefferson City too. People will follow emotion over principle, and that is trouble. I mean, it's just trouble. And then toward the end, I will note that they changed the debate to 1 minute total on each for opposition and for in favor on those motions from the 3 minutes originally of what she had said she would allow. So we went from 3 minutes, which is still not enough to really debate those issues that are so important, to 1 minute total for anyone who wants to speak on that motion. That is not enough time to vet those things. And that's why you have a platform committee that do the hard work of all of that, for the most part, ahead of time, because you don't have enough time to really do this in a convention setting.
I found it ironic too that there were a lot of people who were trying to lay claim to the title of grassroots who seemed to, who had lobbyists who were considering themselves actual lobbyists who were calling themselves grassroots, but they weren't acting very grassrootsy. Some people like to think that they lay claim to the title of grassroots, but I mean, there really were more grassroots than just the people who were supporting one candidate at this convention. There are a lot of us just regular folks who showed up to our county conventions and who have gone through this process of delegates who have no ties to the establishment here in Missouri at all. And it seems as if there's this desire to sort of like gatekeep what it means to be grassroots. Now, listen, if you're a multi-millionaire and you're sending out text messages to everybody and circulating all these expensive flyers, you might not be grassroots. But I mean, like, people must not know who you are, Ben. I mean, you're basically the Ted Cruz of Missouri, is what I like to refer to you as. If you're the Ted Cruz of Missouri, Tony Lavasco is the Rand Paul of Missouri. I mean, you're grassroots.
Yes. I ran as a grassroots candidate. I beat the establishment in my race, who had all the establishment money. And that's the thing. The terms are changing, and that's dangerous too. And I talked about this on my podcast yesterday. It's not just the left that are changing some of the definitions of words, it's the right too, and that's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you can't say I'm the only one that's grassroots and I own that. And if you don't agree with everything that I do, then you're not grassroots. That's not what it's like to be an American and have the First Amendment right that we have. I think there's a lot of people who fall into what I believe is the actual term of grassroots who wouldn't agree with some of the things that happened yesterday.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
You can't just own the term.
Yeah, and you shouldn't be ramming through things without proper debate. And if you're using parliamentary procedure in the proper way, well, that is democracy. Now, our friend Joyce McIntosh, she is listening now. Hi, Joyce. Nice to see you. She says she's watching. If the first 5 hours hadn't been wasted, we would have had plenty of time. This all could have been avoided if we were maybe a little bit more organized in the morning. Wouldn't it have been, Ben?
Agree. And that's another thing I discussed as well. And that is, there was a lot of disorganization. There was problems with the list, and that's on both sides. But I do not believe for a second that it was purposeful, that there was a purposeful delay to try to derail the coup. None of that, I believe, is true. I think it was just human error. And again, now we have misdirected frustrations, and that's what kind of grew out of that as the meeting progressed. And it was fumbled to some degree on that. But it was just as much the people who didn't understand the process who showed up, as much as their fault as it was the people that were volunteering to try to make this convention, play out and try to organize it.
Yeah,
So,
never attribute to malice what could easily be explained by stupidity, right, Ben? Or incompetence. Ben, thanks for joining us here on the show today. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go?
Thanks, Austin. Have a great day.
Yep, thanks, Ben. Have a good one. All right, there we go. Ben Baker, what'd you guys think? Okay? Up? Happy? Sad? Boom? What do you think about that? Yeah, I think here's the thing. Here's my take on it, and I hope Joyce is listening because we got to be good buddies by the end of the convention. And I think especially the people in Cole County, they were a little bit confused why I didn't stand with the majority quite frequently. But of course, they did absolutely support my right to dissent. And I think it is important, of course, to dissent. There were many times at the convention when I was the only person in my crew who was not standing for one measure or another. And I'll tell you, that's not easy to do. It's very difficult when there's a lot of social pressure to feel like you need to dissent. But I was happy that Joyce and our friend, a gentleman who was sitting to her right, I forget his name, my apologies. They said that's what it means to be an American. You have the freedom to dissent. You have the freedom to speak your mind when you go against the majority. Now, it did kind of irk some of the people there that I wouldn't vote the way that they wanted me to, but I was there as a free citizen and a representative of the people of Cole County, and I guarantee you that there are people in Cole County who probably would have agreed with me and wanted me to vote the way that I voted. But here's how I look at the Missouri Republican Convention in toto. The grassroots won. When I say grassroots, I mean all of the grassroots won. It was a big victory. But we learned a lesson about the excesses of democracy as well, and why our founding fathers did not make the United States a pure democracy. So let me explain. The grassroots won on all of the candidates that we advanced. I thought Sophie Shore did a very good job. She was an anti-establishment candidate who became the chair of the convention, and she ran a very tight ship. I thought that the RNC committee man and the committee woman that we sent, they were grassroots. They were anti-establishment. They won, and I think that was a good thing, and it was a victory for the grassroots. And for when it came to electing some of the other officers and positions, I think the grassroots won there as well. But when we came time to debate on the amendments, when the platform fight came on, then we saw the dangers that the founding fathers warned us against. And Ben Baker stood up and took the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune and stood against the excesses of democracy. He had to do something unpopular with the crowds himself. Just like when I refused to stand with my delegation, Ben Baker stood against the excesses of democracy because people wanted to ram through those amendments without proper time for debate. One man standing for what he believes in can make a massive impact. And so the grassroots won on the issues they needed to win on, and they lost on the issues that they needed to lose on. The reason why the founding fathers didn't make our Constitution democratic is because they understood that the excesses of too much democracy meant that the passions of the crowds would supersede our God-given, individual, natural rights. Can I get an amen on that one? Joyce says that the gentleman to her right was Mike Quinn. Well, thank you, Joyce, and thank you for tuning into the Wake Up America show, and I hope that you will be a regular guest. Just so you know, we do get a little rowdy here on the Wake Up America show. Sometimes things get a little bit wild and a little bit weird and a little bit wacky, just like me. A little wild, a little weird, a little wacky. The one guy to your left, Joyce, that just won't stand up. I protest. We've had our voices heard here on the Wake Up America show. We had our voices heard at the Republican convention last weekend, and they will be heard again this fall when we, the people, fight back against the left, the real enemy of freedom, which is the authoritarian, socialist, communist left, the wokies. That's the real enemy, right? The grassroots Republicans, we're all same side, same team. We all know what we got to do. We've got to beat Joe Biden this fall. Can I get an amen? That's what really matters. Not the platform. That's not what really matters. What really matters is doing what it's going to take to actually get those gas prices down, get those vehicle prices down, get those food prices down. So what does that mean? That means we need to vote for limited government, individual liberty, all the good stuff that makes America great. Again, thanks so much for tuning into the show. Don't forget to click the like button on the feed and the follow button as well so you can find us. The Wake Up America show streams live Mondays through Fridays from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. One last thing real quick before I go. My lovely, smoking hot, redheaded libertarian wifey has got a brand new hustling and homemaking video for you guys to watch, and it premieres at 9:05 a.m. Central Time. Austin, how can I watch your smoking hot, redheaded libertarian wife's video? Well, all you got to do is visit my merchandise shop right as soon as the show is over. ap4libertyshop.com. Head over to ap4libertyshop.com, and at 9:05 a.m. Central Time, the Wake Up America show's lovely wifey of liberty, Stephanie, will be debuting her video, Air Fryer Egg Hack. She learned how to cook an egg in the air fryer. So check it out. Go over to ap4libertyshop.com. 10 minutes from now, drops live. It's going to be a nice little live chat over there. How do I watch the video? See the little button that says click to watch? Yes, make it nice and easy for you. All right, head on over to ap4libertyshop.com. We'll see you guys tomorrow right back here. Camelia Peterson will join us. I'm sure she'll want to talk about the Missouri Republican Convention. She was there. I was very tempted to have her on today, but there's a lot going on. All right. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good weekend. Joyce, nice to see you. Welcome to the show. Hope you come back tomorrow as well, and I'll see you around Cole County, maybe at Walmart or something. All right? Have a good one, guys. We'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
The Wake Up America show, our bonus content theme will look at video games with libertarian themes. Today we will give a broad overview, with the rest of the week a more up-close view of these games. Today's mini-documentary looks at 6 video games every libertarian should play. Welcome to our video on 6 video games every libertarian should play, exploring games that resonate with themes of individual choice and political freedom. Video games have revolutionized storytelling by centering player interactivity and choice, unlike traditional passive media. Players craft their own narratives within the frameworks designed by game creators. As technology has advanced, games have increasingly embraced complex choices, allowing players to create personalized stories. This shift reflects a broader cultural move towards niche, individualized experiences. For libertarians, video games represent a fusion of technology and personal freedom, often incorporating concepts that appeal to their philosophy. Let's dive into 6 compelling games that challenge authority and explore freedom, making them particularly appealing to libertarian players. Fallout 3 offers a post-apocalyptic vision of Washington, D.C., filled with power struggles and threats to personal liberty. A post-apocalyptic role-playing game set in a bombed-out futuristic Washington, D.C. known as the Capital Wasteland. Warring tribes of wannabe authority figures fight for control. Thugs and scammers try to take your guns and your money at every turn. Super-intelligent robots try to re-engineer society, and the whole place is overrun with super mutants. In other words, it's a lot like the Washington, D.C. we all know and love today. Fallout 3 is also one of the most expansive, open, and darkly funny games ever made. BioShock transports players to an underwater city based on libertarian and anarchistic ideals. The game critiques and plays with the concept of extreme individualism through its engaging narrative twist. Players fight their way through the ruins of an Art Deco underwater city set up as a kind of sci-fi anarchist utopia, where biological modification is plentiful, looters are treated as scum, and the pursuit of individual desire and accomplishment is treated as life's most noble goal. The villain is clearly intended as a riff on Ayn Rand's super-individualists, but in a mid-game twist he shows he's not simply a bad guy. BioShock from satirical, action-driven homage to Rand into a clever riff on the perception of individual freedom and the nature of choice. In Red Dead Redemption, players experience the Wild West through John Marston, a character torn between corrupt government forces. This open-world Western's anti-government individualism is so strong that it's occasionally accused of being outright libertarian propaganda. But what it really offers is character-driven perspective. Players step into the boots of John Marston, a former outlaw who resentfully sells his gun to both the Mexican army and corrupt agents of the U.S. government. Agents help take his family hostage. The forces on both sides of the border are ugly, and Marston, a reformed family man, wants no part of any of it. In the end, players take the role of Marston's son in order to extract a year's delayed payback. Red Dead Redemption is a great genre piece about the decline of the outlaw West, and a surprisingly affecting look at the generational consequences of violence. Fable III combines economics and politics within its gameplay. Players engage in a dynamic market and political promises, reflecting the challenges of leadership and governance. The game's setting revolves around a revolution occurring against a corrupt tyrant, and the player's decisions for good or evil will see him becoming either a hero or the dictatorial tyrant himself. L.A. Noire sets players in post-WW2 Los Angeles as a detective solving crimes. Set in 1947 Los Angeles, the game follows Detective Cole Phelps's rise among the ranks of the Los Angeles Police Department as he solves a range of cases across various bureaus. When he is tasked with investigating a morphine distribution ring involving several of his former squad mates from World War II, Phelps finds both his personal and professional life falling into turmoil, and reluctantly joins forces with his estranged former comrade, Jack Kelso, as they uncover a major conspiracy involving prominent Los Angeles figures. Lastly, Deus Ex: Human Revolution explores the ethical and societal impacts of human augmentation. Deus Ex: Human Revolution casts players in the role of Adam Jensen, a grim security chief at a biotech corporation that specializes in human augmentation. Set in a bleak cyberpunk future, the game kicks off when anti-biotech militants break into the headquarters of Jensen's company on the eve of a legislative hearing about biotech regulations. Jensen fends off the attackers but is injured and must be rebuilt with biological enhancements. From there, players must uncover the truth about the break-in against the backdrop of an ongoing debate about the safety and ethics of human augmentation. The game's cast will be familiar to anyone who has followed such debates in real life. Uncompromising anti-science radicals, moderates who favor regulation, self-interested political players, scheming corporate leaders, and apolitical scientists. The noir story has no heroes. These games not only provide entertainment, but also provoke thought about freedom, authority, and individual rights, making them a must-play for those interested in these themes. Thank you for watching our exploration of these 6 libertarian-themed video games. Whether for their deep narratives or their critical take on societal norms, each game offers a unique perspective on freedom and choice.